Great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for supporting VIMS and for attending our first virtual marine science day supported by Dominion Energy. My name is Kaitlyn Clark. I'm a graduate student at VIMS, and I will be your host for this session. In this session, we are happy to have marine education specialist Tara Rudo with us to discuss her career path and her role at VIMS. So welcome, Tara.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So while we wait for folks to submit a few questions, if you wouldn't mind just doing maybe like a brief overview of what your typical day looks like at VIMS.
Yeah, so I'm originally from North Carolina, and so I've been working at VIMS in CB Near, so the Chesapeake Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve in Virginia, since the end of January. So unfortunately, most of my time here has been during the COVID crisis and really adapting to the virtual side of things. So it's definitely been a great learning experience. And when I was back in the office, we were prepping a lot for field trips. So I was spending a lot of time doing that and really learning what VIMS does in general and meeting some of the amazing staff there.
That's awesome. So our first question submitted from our audience is, what is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job, and most jobs that I've had in the past, obviously is going to be working with kids. We do a lot of field trips and summer camp programs, and unfortunately those are canceled for the spring and summer this year. But I do really love working with kids from various backgrounds and seeing how passionate they are about marine science. And if I get the chance to, inspire that same kind of passion for those students, that's something that I really love doing and will love to continue to do in my future career.
Very nice. Someone also asked, what kinds of jobs are there within marine education?
Yeah, that's a great question. So marine science in general has a lot of different fields of study. In marine education, there are a lot of opportunities as well. So there's a lot of nonprofits you can work for. I've worked in aquariums in the past, so those are great ways to really get involved in marine education, a good jumping off point especially. If you're a younger audience member and you're trying to kind of get your foot in the door, I always tell people it's great to volunteer at local museums, local aquariums, local organizations like VIMS, for example. It's a great learning experience. You get to see how those positions work out, and then potentially that could turn into your future career. But there are a lot of local organizations that hire marine educators, and we are a partner with NOAA, so they have a lot of offices as well that hire marine educators.
Awesome. Another question submitted by your audience is, how many years of education did you do?
Awesome. So I got my undergraduate degree from UNC Greensboro back in North Carolina. So 4 years there, majored in environmental science. And then I took a year off to kind of really figure out what I wanted to do with my degree and decided to go to grad school. So I went to UNC Wilmington on the coast in North Carolina and completed 2 years for my master's degree in environmental science. And that's where I focused more on marine and coastal education. And it was great because the ocean was my backyard there. So field trips were extremely easy. Conducting research was relatively easy as well. But you don't necessarily need a graduate degree to become a marine educator. If you, again, are volunteering, you're doing internships while you're in college, you definitely don't need to feel pressured to go to graduate school. For me, it was just something I felt a desire to do. I've always been a big fan of attending school, and it really helped me discover my passion for marine science. So that's why I chose to pursue my graduate degree.
So this question I feel like is kind of linked. So someone asked, what is a good start for a future in marine science?
Yeah, so a good jumping off point is to find what interests you within marine science. So for me, it was when I learned or got my scuba certification, and that's something you can do at a relatively young age. And so that really was what interested me in the beginning. I did that back in 2011. But I always tell high schoolers that I've worked with in the past that, again, volunteering is a good thing to do, completing those internships. And it really shows those employers that you're passionate about what you're volunteering for. And it's also a good learning experience. You get to work with people in those fields. You get to make those connections that are really important. And, you know, the marine science field is relatively small. You meet a lot of people from all over the country, but it's a very tight-knit network. So if you can definitely get your foot in the door early on, it helps you in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And along with that, someone asked, what kinds of colleges are there for marine science?
Oh, I love that question. There are a ton. So a lot of colleagues that I've worked with, a lot of my friends who are also in the marine science field have majorly attended coastal colleges. So those are mainly because they have relatively easy access to areas where you're studying marine science. So a lot of universities down in Florida. I know Eckerd College is a really popular university for marine science that's down in St. Pete in Florida. Coastal University in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is a big one. Wilmington, I've met a lot of people since I've graduated who also went to Wilmington. And it also matters like what kind of marine science you want to study. So I specialize more on Southeast United States ecology. So I know a lot more about that than say West Coast. That's a whole different game for me. So it kind of depends on what you'd like to study. Cold water habitats, tropical waters. So there are tons of coastal universities all over the country, all over the world. Even if you want to study abroad, that's something I highly encourage as well.
Awesome. It's great overview of the options that are out there. So let's see. Someone asked if you would just talk again about the favorite aspects of your job. I think some people missed it at the beginning, so
Yeah.
circle back around to that.
Yeah, so for those who missed it, I started back in January. So I only had about maybe 2 months in our office to really get a good idea of what my job looked like before quarantine all happened. So since quarantine, I've been focusing on virtual learning, and that's a great learning experience for me. It's something I haven't done a lot of in the past. So I'm gaining a lot of great experience there. But normally my job, if we were in the office, I would be doing classroom visits. So we have a certain set of programs that we can take to a classroom and teach there. We have field trips come to the VIMS campus, and we do activities like seining out in the York River. We do fish identification, oyster reef habitat, tons of really hands-on interactive learning with students. And then moving into the summer season, that's when our camps start rolling out. So unfortunately this summer that's not happening, but we are working on creating summer content. So, and then entering the fall and the winter, that's a lot of our planning period. And we do a lot more outreach during that time. We attend some conferences. So that's a good way to make those connections again within my career. So hopefully when all this is over, I'll be really ready to start educating in person again.
Along with that, someone asked, I love this question, what is your favorite topic to teach about?
Oh, I love that question too. That's a tough question. So at CB Near, we do focus primarily on wetlands and estuarine habitats. So a lot of the education I've done in the past focuses more on like coastal education. So I used to really love teaching about barrier island formation. I know that sounds kind of boring to some people, but the Outer Banks is like my favorite place on earth. So I always love talking about how those islands are changing and moving over time. But I've always had a passion, obviously, working in wetlands. And I love teaching about marshes specifically because people will walk into a marsh and they think, oh, it's muddy. Oh, it smells bad. I don't really like this. But if you learn more about how amazing these marshes are, how productive they are, how many species rely on them for so many different reasons. I used to tell kids that, you know, if you take the marsh mud, which is we like rub it on our face and give ourselves little marsh facials. So just making the marsh more relatable to people, and showing them how important that marsh is something that I've learned to appreciate more over the last few years.
Awesome. And oh gosh, I also love this question. Also keep the questions coming, guys. These are amazing. Someone asked, how do I do marine science as a kid?
That's awesome. So there are tons of ways you can do it. So we always encourage what we call citizen science projects. So these are ways for the public to get involved with current projects that are going on by researchers and scientists. So a great thing you can do if you are visiting beaches a lot this summer when they start opening back up is you can start collecting trash that you find on the beach. And NOAA has a great resource. They have a marine debris tracker app, and you can definitely look that up. It's something you can download on your parents' phone, and you can count how many different types of pieces of trash you collected, and that goes to a NOAA database, and they'll actually use that information for their future projects. And of course, there's other citizen science projects you can get involved with. And we have resources on Marine Science Day's website. This event in general has some great activities that you can do at home. Some story times, we have those activities included that you guys can participate in. But definitely those citizen science projects, that's a great way to get involved with marine science as a kid.
Awesome. And just for the parents out there who hear citizen science, a bunch of us have gone out and used this app. It's super easy, so no fear necessary there. It's really fun, and everything has pictures. It makes it really straightforward to use. So someone asked, just a clarification, what is a barrier island?
Yeah, that's a great question. So barrier islands are found pretty much all along the East Coast. So they're an island that is separate from the mainland. So that usually means that you have to take a bridge to get over to it. I worked on one where you could only get access to it by boat. Sometimes they're privately owned, so you have to have permission from a special organization or something of that nature. But in North Carolina, the Outer Banks, which aren't too far from coastal Virginia, they're very dynamic and they change a lot over time, mainly because of how far or how close they are to the continental shelf and with hurricanes. So hurricanes hit those islands pretty often, and that causes a lot of changes within them. And those barrier islands are very unique habitats too, because they are pretty isolated. So scientists love to study what kind of species live on those islands and how they change over time. And I have a lot of work with sea turtles. So sea turtles lay their nests on those barrier islands. So it's really cool to see either those mama turtles laying their nests or see those hatchlings during the summertime.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So let's see. So one person asked, they said they attended the Teachers on the Estuary program 2 summers ago. And so they're asking, do you ever train or work with or teach teachers, or do you focus mainly on children?
So CB NEAR in general, we do focus mainly on children's education, but we do lead that Teacher on the Estuary workshop or the TOTE workshop. We partner with the Marine Advisory Program over at VIMS, and we lead that. It's usually at the Eastern Shore Lab during late June, early July. So the educators at CB NEAR, along with the Marine Advisory Program educators, do lead that workshop together. Unfortunately, it was canceled this year because of COVID, but we're still planning to have that for summer of 2021. And so that's something I was really looking forward to, because that environment over at the Eastern Shore is really dynamic, and I really do love working with teachers. You can definitely go more in depth on topics with them and see how they're going to apply that to their classroom settings when they go back to school. So we do work with teachers, especially, and but primarily during the summertime, especially, we're going to be working with kids.
So then how do you keep yourself up to date on the latest science or keep up like your own learning?
Oh, good question. So as an educator, I am constantly wanting to learn. That's something I feel most educators love to do, is they always are seeking out new information, meeting new people. So I on my social media, I follow a lot of environmental organizations. On my website searches, I love to look at what NOAA's doing, previous places that I've worked. I like to keep up with the research that they've been conducting, and I'm keep in touch with a lot of professors and researchers that I've worked with in my past jobs to see, what they have been up to. So there's tons of organizations you can follow, and especially with social media being what it is today, and especially during this time, there's so many resources out there. It's almost overwhelming how many resources there are. But for me, it definitely is a good way to occupy my time and continue my learning process. And I still have more to learn, even though I feel that I'm a pretty well-rounded educator. There's always things to improve on. There's always topics that I want to learn more about in the future.
Awesome. So then a few people actually have asked, what are your students' favorite activities? Are there particular activities that have worked really well for you in the past?
So from what I've heard from my coworkers at CB Near, students have really enjoyed seining. So we did a seining video that you guys can find on this event, but seining is where we take a net out into the York River right behind where we work, and we pull in and we ID certain fish species or even invertebrates and ID them with the kids. And it's a good way to get that hands-on learning. So we find that any kind of interactive hands-on learning has more of an impact for students. So I think that's why seining is so popular. Plus, who doesn't love getting muddy and walking around in the water? It's great to do. In the past, when I worked with sea turtles, people loved to go on our turtle walks where we would educate them about signs of where sea turtles would nest. And occasionally we would actually see one. We would partner with our research team. So of course people would love to see a nesting sea turtle. So I think anytime you get people out in the field and you get to educate them outside, I think those are programs that are really popular.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Oh my gosh, seeing a nesting sea turtle is still one of my bucket list items.
It's amazing.
So someone, I guess along those lines, someone asked, how do you study animals, or maybe how do you teach about animals?
So the best way that I've learned to teach about animals is by working with them. So I had a general knowledge about a lot of different animals just from what I've studied. I was an aquarist for a certain amount of time. So that's someone who works at an aquarium and takes care of animals that are in an aquarium. So I was taking care of jellyfish. I was taking care of many freshwater fish species. We took care of an octopus, stingrays, and sharks. And when you actually work with them in that kind of setting, you learn about the medical side of things, you learn about their anatomy, their behavior, enrichment opportunities for them. And so that gave me a lot more confidence in teaching about them. And stingrays are actually one of my favorite animals that I love to teach about because they have a negative connotation to them. A lot of people are very scared of them. They have a lot of, bad press against them, but I think they're a really important animal and a really cool animal to study, and didn't really know about that until I started working with them and gained a better appreciation for them. So I really do thank that job for helping me become more well-rounded in my animal knowledge.
Awesome. And we're very close to the end, but we just got a question that I think is really important. So it says, one time I asked college students what they were studying, and they said like sharks, corals, and turtles. So can you only choose animals or only water clarity or something like that?
No, so that's a great thing about marine education in general is you don't have to focus all your time on one certain topic or one certain species. I've worked with all different types of animals. I've worked even with plants and learning about them, and because it's important that we learn all about it because they're all part of the same ecosystem. So a lot of researchers, of course, they'll focus more on one specific animal, which is great. But that's why I chose marine education, is I wanted to have a general knowledge of all of this stuff. And so it's really helped me. And, like I said, I love learning, so I want to learn about it all, and you guys can too.
Awesome. That was a lovely way to end. It does look like our time is right about over today. So Ms. Rudo, thank you so much for being here and for helping us learn more about your career path and your role at VIMS. For all of our attendees around the world, if you navigate back to the agenda page, you can access all of our other great virtual sessions and interviews. And we also have a whole bunch of resources that are there on the home screen for you to explore as well. Thanks again to Dominion Energy for supporting this session, and to all our attendees, we hope to see you on campus when it's open or here virtually again soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, guys.